right, now am I right in assuming that everybody has their emulator? It's up, it's running. All right, there's nothing on it yet, and if it's on the screen, you can even minimize it. Don't click X, click the minus sign by it if you want to minimize it. So if you want to, just minimize. All right, and you're right here, correct? So let's create the simplest program there is. All right, so we're going to do a File, New, Android Application Project, and we're going to call it what it is, which is Hello World. You don't have Android application as an option? None of you do? Then we may be able to get to it by File, New, Other on the bottom, and Android Application Project. You all see that? All right. Did that work? So again, if you didn't hear that, my guess is by the time you come back for fall, that will be in there. But if it comes up, if you do a file and you do a new and it doesn't show Android over here, then just go down to Other and choose the Android folder and choose Android Application Project there. But if you already have it, then just do a File, New, Android Application Project. Either way, it should get you to here. All right? For right now, we're just going to keep all of the defaults. We're not going to worry about anything. So if am I right in assuming we're all at this screen right here? So we're just going to call it Hello World. Hello space world. Just like that. And you'll notice that when you create that, I put a hello space world, but again for the project, it removes any blank spaces. And for our package name, we'll do it the same way we've been doing it. So mine is edu.blackhawk.jscott, or however you've been doing it. All right? And keep the hello world on the end. We'll keep the minimum required SDK, the target SDK, even if yours are different than mine, it shouldn't hurt anything. We'll keep the compile with, so we'll keep all the defaults for these. All right? And then we'll click Next. Again, this is a bunch of internal type of stuff that we really and truly for right now don't even have to care about. So we'll click Next again. For now, we'll just use the default icon. And you'll notice what actually ends up happening when you do this is typically if you're going to create this, so if you are going to be creating an application that you will want to sell, the icon is actually really important. A lot of times you'll have it professionally done, and you'll have 4 of them made. All right, you'll have one made for an older type of cell phone, one for a newer type of cell phone, and different ones. So this is medium density pixels per inch, high density pixels per inch, extra high, and extra high. All right. So we're not going to worry about changing the image now. We'll just use the default one. That's fine. So we'll click Next again. And I already showed you this. For now, we'll just keep it all the defaults. So we'll make sure that that create activity is checked and just choose blank activity and click Next again. All right. In many ways, this main activity that you see right here, that's going to be symbolic of the main that we've been using in Java. All right. But it's not exactly the same thing, but it's similar. So some people go in here and they rename that main. We're just going to leave it the way it is because it's fine the way it is. All right. So now just click Finish. And what you should notice within a matter of seconds here, I'm going to close my stuff that I've got open here, but I just want to go through the hierarchy and the way some of this stuff is set up in here, okay? So it'll take just a minute. Yours may take longer than mine because with a lot of this stuff you haven't done it before. So when we're first doing this stuff, if yours takes longer than mine, don't worry about it. So if I look in here now, and what I want you to do for just a second, if you would please, is take a look up on the screen, and you'll notice everything that's between here, where it says Hello World, and Jeff's tip calculator, those are all the files that were created for us. So there's a boatload more files created for us than what we had in a regular Eclipse Java project. So I want to take a couple minutes and talk about some of these things. You don't have to write this down, but much of the stuff I'm saying right now is really important, so at least listen to it. All right? First thing, if I go under Source and under my package, and there's my main activity Java file, you'll notice a lot of this stuff has been written for me already. Don't worry about that stuff for right now. We will go over it, but don't worry about it. Okay? So I'm just going to close that for right now. All right, and go back to where I was. This thing right here that says Gen, don't ever touch anything that's in there. Okay? That said, you've been warned. All right? What happens when you create an Android project is there are two ways that you can create an Android project. I already showed you one of them. In other words, I can come up, if I want to add a button here, I can just go and drag and either drag it right into here or drag it up here. I can do that. And that's fine. That's the way a lot of developers create their projects. But there is another way. All right? I don't know if you've heard of XML before, if you've talked about it in some of your classes. But what you can do is you can build your project using XML. Right now, this is my file. This is activity main right here. But if I go down to the bottom where it's showing me graphical layout and it also shows activity main XML, if I click that other tab, if you look up on the screen here, that's XML. You can also build an entire project this way. See where I've got text view right here? So if I wanted to put another text view in there, I'm going to copy this. And you don't have to do this, but I just want to show it to you. So if I put another thing in there where it says string hello world, I'm going to say, I'll leave it like that. All right? And now I'm going to come back over to my layout. All right, of course, make me a liar. But what's going to happen, at least eventually, is there'll be another text view there. All right? I don't want that anyway, so I'm just going to get rid of it. But what I want you to understand, or at least here, is this. Some developers go, and this is the way I do it, I like to see what I'm doing. So I like to drag things around, etc. I like to do it like that. But there are some people who are really good with XML who like to go in and write their program with the XML. All right? Why am I telling you that? Who cares? Well, these R files that you see that are in here, r.java and that r.java, they take anything that has been written in XML and convert it over to its Java equivalents. You can look at those files. You should never change anything that's in them. Because what happens is, when it takes the stuff that's in here and it converts it into something that looks like this, that's called inflating your program. And those R files are what are responsible for inflating your program. So you don't ever want to jack with them. I'm just to show you right here. So it created a whole boatload of stuff for me already. And you look, well, wait a minute, those are all static files, Jeff. Didn't you tell us that those are all constants? They are. They're all different things that the system set up for you. And what they've done is they've equated them with addresses in memory. So if you start changing things, you're screwing up memory in the computer. And if you ever want to screw up a program, that's probably the easiest way to do it. So again, bottom line, I can't say that too many times. That folder that's in there that says Gen, you should never, ever have to open anything up in it. You should never have to touch anything that's in it. Especially those R files like that. All right? All right. Then you'll notice there's the jar files. We already saw those from last semester, or from earlier this semester. That's all the built-in stuff that we've got available for us. All right? We don't have to jack with those either. They're already built in. There's some Android private library stuff. And this right here may not look like much, but I think I can get John pretty fast to agree with this. Earlier in the semester, what happened was when you use older versions of the API, what was happening is it was creating other files in here, and it was creating these, not jar files, but some of these other files, and that all that did was almost guarantee your program wouldn't work. Am I being too dramatic there? That's pretty much what happened. All right. So these are private library files. Again, you should have no reason to touch these, but I'm just showing you that they're in there. All right. This setting has got some Eclipse preferences. You shouldn't have to touch that. All right. The bin has got a file in there that's called Android manifest.xml. It's another XML file. You go, well, that looks pretty ugly. Well, that's what it looks like, but I can also look at it in true XML format. And that's it. What this has in it are all of your project settings. You may, not with what stuff we'll do, but you may next semester, when we go over Android stuff again, have to sometimes go in and make changes to the stuff that's in here. All right. Again, for right now, don't worry about what it is. It's not really that important for what we're doing right now. All right. All right. Then you notice we've got these drawables. See what I'm doing here on the side? That's got those icons. Remember the different size Android icon that we looked at before? All right. So if we wanted to put other icons in for the program, we could do that too. So if we had image controls and we wanted to put icons in for them, we could add them here. All right. And again, it says XDPI, LDPI. What you're going to hear about, not today, but in the lecture next time, is we're going to talk about DP versus SP. You don't have to worry about it. All right? It's basically, what is it, density independent pixels versus scalable independent pixels, and you use one for fonts and you use one for everything else. So don't worry about it right now. All right? Again, there's more library stuff. This is kind of the key that's in here, this res. Because notice when I close that, most everything else in the program closes. So there's a lot of important stuff in here. I already mentioned this drawable stuff. I already showed you that. But in the layout, that's where your activity main file is. All right? If we were to add a menu to this, bless you, or if we were to add a menu to this, we'd add the menu there. Okay? We won't get into menus this semester. Some of this other stuff that's in here, it looks weird. You notice there's 3 files that are here. There's a dimens.xml, a strings.xml, and a styles.xml. I'm going to show you all of them. You don't have to open them up yourselves. This right here, again, that's just if you want to add things, but this is what it actually looks like. This says that by default, we're going to have a horizontal margin of 16 density pixels and a vertical margin of the same size. All right, we can add things in there if we want to. We can remove these, etc. But by default, that's what we're going to have. So these are our dimensions. And what is that? For lack of better words, it's similar to padding. So if we want to have stuff look nice on the screen, blank space, spaces in between it, etc., that's what we're going to worry about for that. All right? Then the next one. This is going to look a little weird because it's got their app name, Hello World. And what it says is the way that we're referring to our app, that's what we named it when we first came out here and did this. You already know that. Okay? This right here, that you see right there, is what is this right here. Okay? Now, you might look at it and go, okay, fine, whatever. But kind of a question here, why did we do this? Well, you may or may not have heard of this, but there is something that is called internationalization. So if I was going to write this as an app and I wanted to be able to use it in any language whatsoever, then in my strings.xml file, I would put in all of my strings, everything I have in the program for labels and everything else, but I put them in English. And let's say I also wanted to write them in Spanish. All right, I would make another file in here that would be called like strings dash, I don't know what it is, but it's something like ESP for España. and I would put them in there. So what you're going to see basically in this strings file is anything that you have for labels and anything that's going to be any kind of string in your program. And even if they're simple things, you're going to define them in there. All right. Then we also have this, styles.xml. All right. And what I'm telling you right now, this is a little bit almost too general, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is sort of the equivalent of writing CSS in here. It's not really, but it's sort of. You can make styles where you can give things different colors and different backgrounds and different whatevers, and that's what you do in here. All right, I'm not going to go into it any more than that right now. Okay? All right. And you'll notice there's values, and then there's values V11, and there's values V14, because these are for older versions. The V is for version. All right. And there's some other stuff in here that for right now we're not even going to worry about. Okay? So, it doesn't really matter in here. It does not matter what's highlighted. In fact, if you want to run this, you don't even have to have your program doesn't even have to be open. All right? But in order to run this, and there's different ways of doing it. One, I'm going to just show you a couple of them. So I'm going to assume right now that I'm just going to close this stuff that I don't need to have open right now. So I'm going to close those. All right, I don't know what I changed in here, but I'll save it because otherwise it'll ask me to save it. All right, so if I want to run it now, the two ways that most people run their program is either they right mouse click on the name of the program, they go all the way down here to where it says run as, and they choose Android application. All right, or they go to run and they choose run. All right, in fact, I think it's run as, and I think you got to choose Android application. So sorry. So I just, for whatever reason, I always got used to doing it this way. So I'm going to right mouse click, go down to, you can do this too, go down to run as, and go to Android application. And that's going to run it. Now if you have errors, it's going to come up with an error message. So if you haven't written anything, you shouldn't have an error. Now in order to see it, I've got to come up to my simulator, or emulator. So you can bring up your emulator on screen. And nothing magical is going to happen until we do something. And I'm going to show you what that thing is as soon as everybody has their emulator up on the screen. Am I right now? Everybody, you all have your emulator up there? All right. You see down here, you've got this little lock. All right, you got this little lock down here. It's right in the middle. Literally, in order to run this, and it's changed over time. It used to be when this happened, John, correct me if I'm wrong, you got like, it was like a square or a circle, and it was all orange. And you had to take that lock and you had to drag it to the end of that circle. Now you have to literally hold down on your mouse, your left mouse button, grab that lock and drag it up to the top of the screen and let go. And that tells it to run it. Now you might get this message here that says, process system isn't responding. Do you want more time to close it? And you can click either wait or OK. And ideally, within a matter of seconds, it's going to run it. Sometimes, especially when you're first running this the first time or two, you might wait for 2, 3, 5 minutes and nothing may happen. Nothing. See, mine's up there. See how mine's run? Yours may take a lot longer because you've never ran a project under your emulator before. And especially the first time you run this, it's very slow. But when you look up on the screen right now, just a couple things to show you. Again, I wish I made this bigger, but it's fine. This is that text view that we had in there that said hello world. All right. This is because we saved it as hello world. All right. And see the 3 dots up here? Can you all see those? That's what you use for menu. And again, you can play with the stuff in here. There's not really much to do here because, you know, how many people, did any of yours come up yet? Okay. So yours has, how did yours come up? It looks like this? Yeah, that's what it should look. That's where I want it to be. You guys, yours came up? No? Okay, so again, it may take a little bit more time. And let's face it, you're all smart enough to know, okay, yeah, we built an Android app. I don't think anybody's going to buy this. It says "Hello World" on it. All right. But I will tell you, if you haven't heard, there was one of the first iOS apps that was created. You could breathe on your phone with the app, and it was called Steam, and it made your phone look like it was foggy, type of thing. They made $100,000 on it in 6 months. So when you say, well, nobody'd buy this, you'd be surprised. You know, with some of the apps, you know, I don't know if you've heard about this, but when they open up the new stadium in San Francisco for the 49ers, they gave people, if they want them when they came into the stadium, an app for either an iPhone or for an Android machine, and it shows you where the nearest restroom is. It shows you where the smallest lines are, so if you want to go to the concession area. So people are coming up with apps for everything. All right? And the prediction is, it's real close right now, it's almost 50%. But by the end of 2015, more people are going to be using apps and getting to the web from their phones than desktops and laptops combined. All right. And that's where the money is. In fact, what I'm planning on doing in the 158 class, the advanced website design class, we're gonna, when we start the semester, the first thing we're doing, we're building a website starting in day one, and it's going to be your personal portfolio. All right, and you're going to fill it up. So everybody's is going to look different. But we're going to build it up. It's going to have about 5 pages in it. We'll create it first using the HTML. We won't have any CSS in it. Then we'll put in CSS. Then once we get that to work, then we're going to use Bootstrap, and we're going to explode it, so to speak. But my hope is that after we get done with that you're going to start working on that on your own, and that's what you're going to be showing potential employers. And then John's going to show you how you can take that stuff using Site 5 and move that over so you'll be able to get to that externally. So if Eric goes out for a job and somebody says, can I see an example of some of your work, he's just going to type in that URL, or they will, into their machine, and he'll be able to get to all that stuff. All right, that's the plan for next year. All right, so that's about all I had for today. But what I plan on doing then next time is we're going to spend a little bit of time, not a lot, but a little bit of time talking about Android. All right, and then we're going to create an app. I'm still not sure if we're going to do a tip calculator or another one, but what I guarantee you, whatever app we create, I'm giving you the code. You will have the code before we start. You don't have to turn this in. All right, but we'll go over it and what it's supposed to look like. And then what the good news is, then after we do that and we build it as a class, if yours doesn't work or you have a problem, you'll have the finished product. You can go back and take a look at it. All right, so that's all that I have.